everybody, and welcome to Self-Help FAQ, the YouTube channel. I'm Barb, your host, and this is Follow-Up Friday. And today's question comes in like this. What should I do if I set a clear boundary, but the other person pushes back or questions it? What if they say I'm being unreasonable or accuse me of giving ultimatums? That's a really important question, because in the last video we talked about the hidden cost of being too nice, and how over-accommodation can sometimes invite the kind of behavior we don't expect or want. But what happens when you finally do speak up and the other person doesn't simply say, "Okay, I understand," but instead they want to argue, or minimize, or turn the conversation around on you? That moment is what I call boundary testing, and so today that's what we're going to talk about. So when someone is testing your boundary, they don't say, "Hey, I don't respect your boundary." It sounds more like, "You're being too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're being controlling." And my favorite one, "Ultimatums aren't going to work on me." Sometimes they even laugh or make a joke of it. And the goal of this reaction is very subtle. It turns the conversation away from behavior and onto whether you have the right to object or not. Okay, so now let me give you a few real-life examples of boundary testing in action, because most of the time it doesn't come out as obvious a disrespect. It comes out as deflection, sarcasm, or just turning the situation around on you. For example, at one time, I had a partner who would contact their ex-girlfriend and talk about sexual things that they used to do together right in front of me. And when I told them that wasn't okay with me, his response was, "Ultimatums don't work on me, so if you try it, you'll lose." So notice what happened there. The conversation immediately shifted from the behavior to "I had no right to object." Here are a couple of more examples for you to think about. Imagine a partner regularly goes through your phone or messages. So one day you say calmly, "I'm not comfortable with my phone being checked like that. I need my personal messages to stay private." Instead of respecting that, the person might respond with something like, "Wow, what are you hiding?" Or, "If you didn't have anything to hide, it wouldn't bother you." Now the conversation has been flipped. Instead of discussing privacy, you suddenly feel like you have to defend whether you're trustworthy. And sometimes the reaction comes out as sarcasm or humor. You might say something like, "I'm not comfortable with you joking about me like that in front of your friends." And the response might be, "Relax, it's just a joke." Or, "Wow, you're getting really sensitive lately." Or, "Okay, I guess we can't joke around anymore." People often laugh when they say things like this, but what's really happening is your concern is being minimized. And sometimes the response creates guilt. For example, you might ask a partner to stop making negative comments about your appearance or your personal choices. You might say, "I'd like you to stop making comments about me like that. They don't feel good to me." Instead of acknowledging that, the response might be, "Wow, nothing I ever do is good enough for you." Or, "I guess I'll just keep my mouth shut from now on." Now suddenly the conversation becomes about their hurt feelings instead of the behavior you were trying to address. In each of these situations, something important is happening. The conversation stops being about the behavior and becomes a debate about whether your boundary is legitimate. And that's the moment where many people start doubting themselves. So here's the trap that many people fall into. When someone challenges a boundary, many people feel the urge to start explaining. They defend their reasoning. They justify why the boundary makes sense. They try to convince the other person But here's the important thing to understand. A boundary is not an argument that you have to win. It's information. It simply tells the other person, this is where my comfort ends. So now let's talk about what a healthy response is in this case. So when someone pushes back on a boundary, a calm response will look like this. I'm not trying to control you. I'm just telling you what works for me. Or, you don't have to agree with me, but this is important to me. So notice something important. You're not escalating the conflict. You're just simply staying clear. Because boundaries are not about forcing someone else to change. They're about being honest about what you can and cannot accept. So now let's talk about what boundary testing reveals. Sometimes when a boundary is stated clearly, the other person adjusts, and that's a good sign. But sometimes the other person will still mock, argue, and dismiss. And that reveals something important too. It tells you how the person responds when your needs are visible. And that's important too. That information matters because healthy relationships can handle healthy limits. So now that brings us to our journal question for the day, or for the video. And the question is, when someone pushes back on a boundary, do I stay clear about what works for me? Or do I start defending myself? So think a lot about how you handle, your boundaries and the reactions, and see if there's something that you might be able to change to get things going in a better direction for your relationship. So setting boundaries doesn't mean being harsh. It doesn't mean becoming rigid. It simply means being honest about where your comfort ends. And sometimes the most important thing in a relationship happens when you set a boundary and you can see what their reaction is. When you say, this doesn't work for me. Okay, so now we're at the end of the video, and I hope that this was helpful for you. It will help you in your future in working on boundaries. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.